Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet on the 15th of June 2023. We'll go to apologies for absence first, please.
Thank you, Leader. Apologies from Councillor Pugh.
Okay, are there any others? No. Okay, thank you. We'll move to disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. Are there any to declare on today's agenda? No, can't see any hands. Okay, thank you. We'll move then to the minutes of the previous meeting. They're on pages 1 to 9. Not had any requests for amendments. I'm happy to move them. Could I have a seconder, please?
More than happy to second.
Thank you. Now there's two sets, apologies. Okay, so I'll take the first set first. I'll happy to move. Seconder, please.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favour? Thank you very much. And the second set of minutes, again, happy to move.
Happy to second.
And all those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Announcements to Leader of the Council. I don't have any for this morning's meeting. Public question time, are there any?
No public questions received, Leader.
Okay, councillor question time. I don't see any councillors present to ask questions. So we'll move then to item 7, which is maximising EOTAS provision for vulnerable learners in Swansea. Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Members will be aware of the background to this item and that report was taken to Cabinet some 7 years ago, which led to significant investment and significant changes in the way EOTAS provision and the PRU operated in Swansea. This report is based on the experience of operating that model over the last 7 years and reflects the changing needs within our society, the changing needs among children and young people in Swansea, and seeks to enable us to respond more effectively by changing not the buildings on this occasion, but changing the way My Stereo operates, changing the way the EOTA service operates. You'll be aware that there's been investment in specialist facilities at Birch Grove Comprehensive, and that's been followed by the development of similar provision for primary age children in Clwyd Primary School. And this is taking us forward, enabling us to make better use of the resources we have. There are outstanding facilities at My Stereo, and these changes are designed to make the optimum use of those as a centre for vulnerable learners. So it gives me great pleasure to move the report and thank the officers who've been involved in this, bringing the report to Cabinet, but who I know will also be taking this work forward over the next period, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm very happy to second the report and the recommendations on page 10. I'll open it up. Does anybody else wish to comment or any questions for Councillor Smith on this? If not, we'll go to the vote. We're going to try the electronic vote, but if it doesn't work, we'll revert to physical hands. There we are. You should have your vote there.
Has everybody been able to vote electronically? No.
Yep.
Councillor RFD? Councillor Smith? And Councillor Stevens?
Myself, please. 4.
That's unanimous, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move then to item 8, which is the optimised retrofit programme ORP funding. Go to Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to Cabinet. This report is a retrospective funding report, so we're awaiting the outcome of that. But just a brief overview that this is for the optimised retrofit programme, which includes installation measures, PV and battery purchase, designs for renewable technologies and monitoring equipment, and is a bid for just over £2.6 million. So I hope that Cabinet supports this bid, which has obviously been submitted in advance. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I will happily second the report and the recommendations on page 22. Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Lewis? If not, thank you very much. We will then go to the vote again.
Vote's been launched. Anybody not able to vote electronically? Councillor Francis Davis? Councillor Stevens? Leader?
4.
I'll just close the vote. Yeah, that's unanimous, Leader 4.
Okay, thank you, colleagues, again. We'll move then to item 9, which is the financial procedure rule, local transport fund, ultra low emission vehicles transport fund and active travel funds 23-24 snappy title. We'll go to Councillor Stevens and Councillor Lewis. Who's going to lead? Councillor Lewis, are you taking the first part? Yep.
Yes, please, Leader. I know Cabinet will probably appreciate that it's quite a lengthy report, the majority of which sits with Councillor Stevens. However, I'm very pleased to bring, again, this is a retrospective bid for grant funding from the Ultra Low Emission Vehicle Transformation Fund. I'm pleased to say we have had a response to this. So the original bid was 675,000. Unfortunately, we did originally bid for staff resource to support wider promotion, engagement and public awareness strands of work, but that wasn't funded as part of the bid. Although I am delighted to say that we were successful with £573,750 worth of funding. So that is great news for this authority. In point 4.4 of the report, you will see that this is to fund on-street charging at Uplands, Sketty, Calais and Quarry Street, destination charging, which is listed in 4.4, and a hub at Oxford Street. So the proposed scheme would involve the placement of 4-bay rapid charging hub, which would serve to offer rapid charging to a variety of different users. So phase 2 of this bid will bring potentially, obviously subject to connection fees with the grid, potentially a further 26 fast charge points on 13 sites. And with the 23-24 programme connected to the phase 1 bid, that would mean that we would have 40 sites across the city and county of Swansea with 125 charge points. Now, we know that electric vehicles are the solution at the moment for green, ultra low emission vehicles. This authority is keeping a close eye on hydrogen towards the future. But for the interim, we're delighted to say that we are pushing the envelope and trying to encourage consumers to have that confidence, particularly tourists as well, with the more beach and rural charge points, to come to Swansea with their electric vehicles. And this will, of course, contribute to clean air and improving air quality across the city and county. So happy to move the report. And I hand over to Councillor Stevens to take us through the rest of the report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present this joint report to Cabinet alongside Councillor Lewis. The report details our bid to the Welsh Government for nearly 13 million in funding for various public transport and, as Andrea touched on, the EV and also active travel initiatives. The bid's will see a wide range of improvements to public transport, and as Councillor Lewis highlighted, expanded electrical vehicle charging infrastructure and the creation of new cycling and walking routes throughout the county. I was delighted to hear that Welsh Government has already green-lighted part of the overall bid, with active travel receiving almost £5.5 million. That will be dedicated to furthering our development of additional walking and cycling routes. Planned new routes are going to cover a pathway across Klein Common, a new route in the northern part of Morriston, improvements to the existing route between Kingsbridge and Gravesend, as well as new routes in Pontarddulais and between the DVLA and Morriston Hospital. Furthermore, funds have been allocated to widen the existing Mumbles foreshore as part of the ongoing Mumbles Sea Defence Scheme. And although not mentioned in the report, a positive story that came from the recently completed Gysainen and Pontarddulais active travel link was the return of the Briscoe Gysainen 10K after over 25 years. So the route actually played a key role in the race and was utilised by almost 1,000 runners on the day, which is showing that these initiatives can help integrate communities and provide residents with safer options for walking, running and cycling within our city. A substantial portion of the local transport bid, 4.2 million, is intended to advance the Swansea Bay and West Wales Metro project. This initiative aims to enhance transportation links between Swansea, Neath and Port Talbot and Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire. If we're successful in the local transport element of the bid, we'll be able to implement numerous projects aimed at increasing public transport usage, promoting sustainable transportation within the city and enhancing transport connectivity with neighbouring authorities. I'm confident that we'll get a good settlement on the LTF element of the report, as Welsh Government have been extremely supportive when it comes to sustainable travel. And with the additional funding into our road infrastructure coming up on item 12, it shows a commitment to improving all areas of our highway infrastructure. So I want to place on record my thanks to Chloe Lewis and our entire active travel team for the excellent work pulling together such a comprehensive bid and for their outstanding engagement with residents, members and stakeholder groups as these initiatives progress over the year. So I'm happy to move or second the recommendations as laid out in the report, Chair.
Okay, can I thank you both for the report, and as you both said, some really good stuff in there. Obviously, we are hopeful, as you said, around the local transport fund and getting some positive further announcements very shortly on that. But some great projects within this, and as you said, the community rediscovered our network of walkaways, parks and other facilities during COVID. And again, it's good to see those networks being expanded now and people using them on a regular basis and for recreational events. So thank you both for that. The recommendations as moved and seconded are on page 30. So if we could launch the vote, please.
The vote has been launched. Anybody not able to vote electronically? Councillor Francis Davis.
4.
Leader.
4.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Just close the poll. And that's unanimous for Leader.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. We'll move on then to item 10, which is the FPR7 report on the Lower Swansea Valley Programme Levelling Up Fund. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this. The purpose of the report of the Financial Procedure Rule 7, you will see in the report. You'll also see the recommendations there. We were very fortunate, I think, because of the exceptionally hard work of the officers that were put into making a successful bid for this levelling up. Levelling up bid worth over £20 million. There is a contribution needed then from the council as well of £8.76 million from the unsupported borrowing. You see on paragraph 2 the background and why we made this bid, and on paragraph 3 there's the proposed scheme, and 3.2 outlines that the project won the Howard Morver Copperwork site regeneration project. Restoration of the former laboratory building to create a restaurant, food and beverage space, the restoration of the Musgrave engine house and the Vivian engine, creation of a marketplace at the former Rolling Mill building, restoration of the VNS shed to reinstate track and locomotive, and creation of a vibrant public realm. And the project 2, the River Tower and Strand Tunnels project, very exciting to bring in back these part of our history back into meanwhile use in the Strand, linking up with High Street and all the developments that we see around the station there. And then project 3, Swansea Museum, which is the oldest museum in Wales, but has gone a little bit sad, I suppose, over many years of austerity budgets and not getting the finance. And this will actually do what it says is levelling up, making much better facilities in it. If you go through the economic outcomes on paragraph 4, it is clear to say the added GVA for the city, which is why we're doing this, is bringing extra millions into the city. And if we go on to paragraph 5 shows the next steps and where we are in progressing the key milestones on the projects there. So the officers have been exceptionally busy there. And I think, you know, we need to perhaps give ourselves a pat on the back as a council, is ensuring that our heritage buildings are maintained for future generations. I think that not just this work which will be delivered, but work that we've done on the Palace Theatre and work we've all doing on the Albert Hall, and the work at the old Yorkshire Imperium metal site at Landor shows that people are interested in retaining our heritage, but it's also attracting investment. We know a planning application is about to go in for Skyline from that destination, and Penderyn are due to open, I think, around Father's Day time. And again, millions of pounds worth of investment and making a really good destination at the Mover site. And therefore, this is linking up the river corridor with pontoons. We see river taxis coming back already, had people showing interest in that. So I'm happy, really happy to move this recommendation, but let's put our thanks on. I think that the work put in by Paul Ralph, our officer, and his team, they're a really good team, attracting big investment, much needed investment in the Swansea. So I'd like that recorded as well, if possible, Leader. Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis, and thank you for the work you've also put in on this programme to help create and secure the fund. Levelling up, you would think it's just free money, but it isn't. It doesn't work like that. We have to make a contribution, but it does see now £30 million nearly being invested in the river corridor, the Strand and the museum, as you say, and it'll be great to see that museum better connected with the national waterfront and being part of that destination we're building on the seafront. Again, you know, as you referenced, it's not just about bringing the new, but it's about restoring what we have and making sure that we protect our heritage for future generations. And this will be part of potentially a fantastic destination along the river corridor in a few years to come. So really happy to second this one. I'll call in now Councillor King. Sorry, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Really very happy to add and associate myself with Councillor Francis Davis's words, particularly around thanking officers for the work that's been done on it. And I think the vision to restore and protect our heritage along that corridor is really great. And as Councillor Francis Davis referenced, you can see the restoration that's happened around the Penderyn site. It looks absolutely wonderful, and I know the investment in Swansea Museum is very much welcome, and I think that will provide an excellent opportunity to really showcase what we have in the collection and expand the museum there. So I'm very, very happy to support this. Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, and thank you again, Councillor King. It's remiss of me not to thank you as well for the work that you've put into this excellent bid, and again the work you're doing on our cultural assets. I'll call Mr. Smith in.
Thank you, Chair. By way of 1 point of technical clarification, as the Cabinet member has referred to, this will ultimately be through unsupported borrowing as per recommendation 2, but the eagle-eyed will spot in Appendix B, it references our contribution being financed by CCS funding. That is a deliberate fudge. I know Cabinet members are aware of that, but for wider audience understanding, you'll be aware that whilst it will ultimately be done by unsupported borrowing, because there is a slight matter of slightly elevated interest rates at the moment, it is entirely consistent with our strategy of relying on spending our substantial cash and working capital balances in the short term. So it gives me permission to add it to the capital programme, but it remains entirely consistent with the strategy agreed at Council on the 2nd of March, which is that I will liberally interpret when to actually externalise that debt. I just wanted to draw that matter to members' attention. I know you all do understand that, but it may be pertinent for any wider readers, given there is quite a lot of interest in what current interest rates are and what local authorities are borrowing and what for.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Smith. And again, I think it's important to note that you advised and we took the decision to borrow when interest rates were historically low, and that decision has been seen to be absolutely correct, because if we were to go to the markets today, the cost of borrowing would be significantly higher, and therefore our ability to borrow sufficiently at a low and affordable rate would be greatly reduced. So congratulations on getting it right, Mr. Smith, in terms of the decisions made previously. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, it was remiss of me not to thank Ben Smith. The financial advice that he always gives, I think, is spot on. He's the only person I've ever known has made finance sound really interesting, and that's a benefit to us all, because he gets our attention the way he describes things and actually puts them into being. We are very lucky to have such a Section 1.5 officer that we have in Ben Smith. So thank you for that. And also the borrowing. I remember there was some criticism by some people within the council when we borrowed 200 million. I would like to thank you, Leader, and Mr. Smith, on what was, looking back now, a stroke of genius. Perhaps Ben Smith should have been a Prime Minister once or twice or three times, and I think the country would be in a far better financial state. So thank you, Mr. Smith.
I thank members for their comments, and Councillor Robert Francis Davis for his comments. I'll try not to blush too much. And obviously I'm an officer, not a politician, and I'm happy doing what I'm reasonably good at, and I leave other experts to the other matters. But thank you for your kind words and for yours, Chair. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Ben. And yes, I'm sure had you been Prime Minister, you'd have lasted longer than a lettuce. So absolutely. OK, with that, we'll go to the vote then.
The vote has been launched. Councillor Francis Davis.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
And Leader.
For.
That's unanimous for, Leader.
OK, thank you, colleagues. Again, we'll move on then to item 11, which is the Financial Procedure Rule 7 to allocate 20 mile per hour core funding grant. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the report outlines what we will receive from Welsh Government to implement the change in legislation that was passed in the Senedd last July with cross-party support. The report highlights the allocation. The report highlights allocation of almost £3 million and sets out the reasoning for the bid. So this is in addition to the £500,000 that we've already received for preparatory works. Welsh Government, in passing the legislation, have noted that 20 mile an hour might not be suitable for all roads and invited local authorities to consider the roads which they may be appropriate to remain at 30, providing there is strong evidence to support the change. So part of this funding will allow us to carry out the necessary consultation and traffic regulation orders on which roads will be reverting back to 30. And additionally, we'll allocate funds for updating street signage according to the new legislation and modelling the impact on services like written routes. So there's been enormous pressure placed on our traffic team and to ensure we meet the deadlines of the legislation. And I do want to place on record my thanks to Alan Ferris and his entire team for the huge amount of work they have done thus far to ensure we're in a good position to address the impacts of the legislation, but also do what we can to keep this city moving via exemptions. With that, Chair, I have nothing further to add.
OK, thank you, Councillor Stevens, and thank you again for the work you've done with your officers on this report. I think, obviously, as you've referenced, this is Welsh Government policy. It is something we have no option but to implement, and it's good to see the funding being made available to do the necessary works. We will continue to work closely with Welsh Government to see what the impacts of the 20 mile per hour zones are. They are likely to be popular where people live and they want to see traffic reduced in their own streets. But we know it'll be probably more controversial when people are attempting to make their journeys and having to do so at a slower speed. We obviously have also raised concerns with Welsh Government around the impact that slower speeds have on things like bus routes, gritting routes and other services. And that is a conversation that we continue to have with Welsh Government, because again, it may be that those services require additional support due to the lowering of speeds around counties in Wales. But again, thank you for bringing this report. I will therefore second the recommendations on page 88. And I'll open it up. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the Cabinet member? If not, can we go to the vote again, please?
The vote has been launched. Councillor Francis Davis. Councillor Stevens and Leader.
4.
That's unanimous 4 again.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. And our final report today then, item 12, which is the additional capital allocation to highways for the Works Programme 23-24. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to present this report to Cabinet, highlighting a much needed and welcome additional investment into our highways infrastructure. The severe winter weather took a huge toll on our roads, causing widespread damage due to the cold and wet conditions. This additional allocation is great news for our residents and highways teams alike. Despite challenging circumstances, our repair team carried out exceptional work in difficult circumstances throughout the winter, repairing record numbers of potholes, many within 12 hours have been reported. So the report outlines an extra £3 million allocated over the next 3 years, building upon the significant investment already approved earlier this year. This illustrates a noteworthy investment in our highways infrastructure of our city and county, and underline our commitment to preserving and enhancing our road conditions. Some of the significant roads earmarked for major resurfacing this year include Neath Road in Landor, Mumbles Road, Gorse Avenue in Town Hill, Nantong Way, Swansea Road in Llwytha, Middle Road in Gendros, and M4 Junction 47 at Pentligar. I'd like to put on record my thanks to Bob Fenwick and his team for all of their efforts in pulling together this report and designing a comprehensive programme of works. And I'll put on record my thanks to our entire highways team for their dedication to serving our city day in and day out. With that, Chair, nothing further to add. Happy to move the report.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stevens, and I'm happy to move the recommendations on page. Second the recommendation on page 99. I would add, just for for clarity on this, all of the money that's gone into highways this year, the additional monies have come from this council. We have not been able to benefit from the usual Welsh Government grant or any additional consequential from UK Government budget. So Swansea has had to find all of the money internally to put extra investment into our highways. I'm very pleased, as you are, to see the investment coming forward. But again, as we've discussed, and I know you lobby hard on these matters, that where we are able to eke out further resources, we will look to deploy them to improve our highway network. Okay, are there any questions or comments for Councillor Stevens? If not, if we can go to the vote again, please.
The vote's been launched. Councillor Francis Davis, Councillor Stevens and Leader.
4.
And that's unanimous as well, 4.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. And with that, I declare the meeting closed. Councillor Lewis, you got your hand up just before I close the meeting.
Sorry, Leader. I had a message come up saying there was an error regarding my vote, but Alison has obviously recorded it, so no problem there.
Okay. With that, can I thank you all for your attendance? I declare the meeting closed, but could I ask Cabinet members to remain on present or on the call, please, for a few moments? Thank you.